welcoming today Dr. Mercedes, and it's a great opportunity to go through our discussion and go through all the journey that you have wanted through and discover everything. So, before we start, we'd like to say welcome and tell us a little about yourself.
My name is Mercedes. I'm a pharmacist. I'm originally from Queens, New York. I graduated pharmacy school in 2008 from St. John's University in New York and relocated to the Central Florida area in the States in 2009 and started working in the community setting till then. And then in 2017, I was in the pharmacy and I was like, even since being a student in pharmacy school, the idea of giving back in some way outside of the community, outside or on the other side of the pharmacy counter was always a big draw to me. So in 2017, pharmacists are very, well, depending on the pharmacist, but we're very risk adverse. We don't like taking risks. We like making sure that everything is documented, everything is a sure set before we make a move. I decided, you know what, I'm going to take a year off, unpaid, and I'm going to live out a dream that I had in my head all these years. So in 2017, start laying out the groundwork about what areas, in school, we are taught all the different avenues that a pharmacist could be utilized, and just started working on those avenues. And here I am. I don't know if you can see the background, but I just came in to Barbados last night. I'm on the
Whoa.
balcony. Yes.
Okay, yes, we
So
can see that.
I wanted to have it down.
Exciting.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit more about discovering yourself. The point that you have taken as in a gap year. I think there are a lot of pharmacists, once they graduate, they just go with specific pathways, or they're still not aware of which direction, any different pathway. So, how was this gap year really important to understand yourself, to understand the things that you've loved?
especially when I took that year off unpaid, especially in the States, the salaries that pharmacists make in the States or wherever you are,
Mhm.
the salary that you make in the country of your profession, taking a year off unpaid is scary because you're so used to having a steady stream of income. And when that, I feel,
Yeah.
and again, being a pharmacist, you're having everything laid out and you're in an area of unknown where you need to make a way out of nothing. And especially with pharmacy, depending where you are, because meeting you at the International Pharmaceutical Federation,
Yeah.
learning the different avenues of pharmacists. Here in this, well, in the States, pharmacy is more like clinical, and in
Yep.
other countries, it's more industry and whatnot. So learning
Yes.
the different avenues of pharmacy. So my thing was finding out what truly made me happy and just surrounding yourself with people outside of the profession, people in
Mhm.
business and science and stuff, because you learn from other sectors. So I had one entrepreneur, he's a custom tailor, and he was working for the big companies, the big luxury companies, and he decided he's going to be a tailor
Mhm.
on his own. And he said to me, if someone asks you, if someone, and that determines what your true passion is. So if someone woke me up 2 o'clock in the morning and wanted me to set up a health fair, I wouldn't have a problem doing it. So that decided to me, I love working with the patients. I love being on the ground in the community. And then I just evolved from there. So
Really great. I think this is so important for everyone to do something that he has some passion or he's interested so that he can goes along. It's a
after the gap year, again, afraid of risk, I was like, you know what? All right, this year's coming to an end. Now it's like a crossroads. What do I
Mhm.
do? Do I do the unknown? And I learned so much about myself in that realm, or do I continue the traditional route, the safety route of having a steady stream of income? I didn't want to give in, but I went back because I was scared.
Mhm.
But when I went back, while I was in the traditional pharmacy setting, I just kept thinking about the gap year and how much fun and how much I learned about myself
Mhm.
in that year. that I left that time and I went back to my true calling.
Let's
Yeah.
talk about the passion that you kind of went into, regardless of how you mentioned being scared about it or not the safety and usual track that everyone's take. So first, let's introduce the project itself,
Yeah.
the title of the project or the name of the project, and then we will go deeper into the details.
Yeah. Learned so much about myself during that leap, that sabbatical, that time off, because again, and you have to realize you have one life to live, and you have to do what makes you happy, not what other people happy, what makes other people
True.
happy. Because what other people doing, they're living their life, you know,
Mm.
and you have to
Yeah.
live yours. So when I graduated at 23, I'm working, but I'm not truly happy. I'm just doing what was, and I did well back then in the States growing up. It was high school, college, you work, you find a mate, the house, car, kids, the
Yeah.
dog. You
I
work
think
for
it's
30,
similar almost everywhere.
yes, you work for 30 years, you retire, and then you die. You know, that was the path, you know?
Yeah.
And for myself, because I can only speak for myself, doing that route or doing things to avoid the unknowns, avoid risk, avoid any type of conflict. You're not growing because you're just doing a certain path of what's taught. But
Yeah.
when you actually step out and really challenge yourself, you learn so much more about yourself and see what you're really capable of. And in
Yeah.
2017, stepping out, the last time I applied for a job, I just wrote to whom this may concern, if you're hiring, whatnot. And in 2017, I just did the same thing because at the time that worked for me. So I'm like, it worked then, let me try it again. So I wrote to whom this may concern, just I wanted to volunteer just to set my foot in the door. You know, I just go to
Uh-huh.
places that would utilize a pharmacist. So one of the places I volunteered at was a diabetes association in Barbados. And
Hmm.
again, coming from the community setting, never working now in public health, I was like, you know, health literacy is a big thing, especially in the Caribbean region. There's a high incidence of chronic disease. Do like health related social media posts that will target the youth, young adult, and older population.
Hmm.
So with that, I was in charge of doing their social media handles, and they're part of the International Diabetes Federation. So they have like a biannual conference. So in 2017, they had a conference in Abu Dhabi. So
Hmm.
coming from Orlando, Florida, and having an opportunity to present what we were working on, healthcare social media in Abu Dhabi on the other side of the world, was just a life-changing experience. And in
Hmm.
2017, we set up the abstract. We went to Abu Dhabi. I give credit for those long haul flights. I didn't even complete the world. I didn't even realize from Orlando to 14 Dubai, 14 hours. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Way, but I think it was worth it.
It was worth it. And it's so beautiful learning about the different cultures, especially coming from New York, but seeing it front hand. It's just, again, the opportunity to even speak to you is from taking that leap of faith in 2017.
Yeah.
So this is just a testimony to that.
Yes, yes, that I think that's great because you never know when it's the time to bring out what's the inner side of you that you love. Sometimes, as you highlight, the society pathway and what everyone tells you to do, even in schooling, just tells us to go to a specific pathway,
Yeah,
and sometimes it's not easy to direct ourselves to a new thing, try something new, try
that's
to
it.
find what we are interested in. I think it takes a lot of courage.
Yeah,
And your journey to Dubai,
yeah.
was it the first time to visit the Middle East by that time?
Yes, it was.
Okay,
And
great,
it's
great.
just so beautiful hearing, the mosque, at
Yes.
certain times of the day, you
Oh,
know,
yeah,
it was just
great.
beautiful. Yes,
Great.
yes.
And hopefully you will come and see around Kuwait and all the other
I
Middle
know, it's
Eastern
so
countries.
true. It's so true.
Okay, so this takes us to the point where we mentioned that pharmacy is not just a specific pathway, because you've highlighted how the options can be really different, and you've volunteered and you've seen how such group of people really needs, for example, a specific awareness in regards of some chronic diseases, which you can contribute. There are simple steps that you can take, simple awareness, maybe posts through social media that can make a change. I'm highlighting these points because these limits are really changing right now due to the this huge connection that we have, which might not be available before a long time. Today, we can connect easily, similar to how we are connecting, discussing the difference between the career. So, a pharmacy is limited to dispensing. Pharmacy is not doesn't have a future. So, how do you reply to such, for example, quotes or sentences?
Pharmacy profession in the States becoming is a PharmD or a doctorate of pharmacy degree. And in other countries, especially in the Caribbean, some countries are at an associate's level, some are at a bachelor's level, and some are at a doctoral level. And that's one of the challenges, but the world being so interconnected, even though the country of your profession can be limiting, you could step outside of that country and work on an international level and find opportunities for your calling in other countries as well. So
We also want to say that uh, having your own passion and your own contribute to the profession will really also makes a difference. Will All right, so we'd like to talk about how Mercedes have created the idea of the five loaves and the two fish, which is a healthy teaching kitchen that me myself seeing the idea of the project will think that, oh, is this related to nutrition? Oh, how did the pharmacist come up with such idea, working also with a chef and collaborating? How did this love cooking these things together and coming up with such idea? Want to know the relation. We want to know how this contributes to the personal wellness or to the health wellness of a person or maybe a patient. So, yeah, what is the idea behind this project?
well, my husband, he loves LinkedIn. So he saw an article on LinkedIn where it spoke about different healthcare providers. So in
Mhm.
this article, it was a pediatrician and she incorporated healthy foods to show the young adults and the children how to eat healthy because of certain allergies that they had or sensitivities like asthma and such.
Yeah.
And then just discovering and reading more into that concept or teaching kitchen concept, we came across the Harvard School of Public Health,
Uh
Healthy
huh.
Kitchens and Healthy Lives. That's their conference with the Culinary Institute of America. So basically, it's the different specialties coming together, professions, the healthcare side and the culinary side coming together to find innovative ways to improve health outcomes. So again, speaking to the patient or consulting the patient or having consultations, trying to find a happy medium, you from being a healthcare provider, having your outcomes and your tasks and objectives that you want to achieve, and the patient may have a totally different objective. So for us, say with a pharmacist, our goal is to have the patient use their inhaler not as often or less frequently.
Hmm.
But the patient's goal is, I want to be able to catch my breath so I could play with my grandkids or my children and whatnot.
Yeah.
So our expectations in the pharmacy world is different from the patient's perspective, focusing on a patient-centered care model or a collaborative approach. So as a pharmacist, we have certain strengths and weaknesses.
Yes.
So I'm not trying to approach into a dietitian nutrition role, but if you need assistance with carb counting and the specialties of a dietitian or nutritionist, I would relay you over to that. And the
Yeah.
same with the culinary world with a chef. I can make food just to make for myself, but a chef has a unique ability to turn a vegetable into something tasty. You would do like a health fair, you have the brochures and information, and the
Yeah.
patients or the participants take it and then they walk off.
Yes.
So after the conference, we were like, you know what? We're going to start this whole teaching kitchen concept and let's see what happens. Guidelines stress Mediterranean diet, but people from the Caribbean or people from certain areas of the world do not
Yeah.
eat like everyone from the Mediterranean region. So using the local foods in that area, right? Making sure that the meals that we do prepare are economical to avoid barriers. We don't want to prepare a meal and it's totally outside of their budget for the month or the week or the
Yes.
day. And then we highlight different monthly events. So, say in the States, February is American Heart Month. So, we focus on foods that are heart healthy. So, how the class works is like for the first half hour, we do the pharmacy health education,
Uh-huh.
common knowledge education to help increase the health literacy of the participants or the patients. And then the second half of the class, it rolls over into a cooking class. So either it's demo, they're watching my husband or Chef Phil cook, or they're cooking along. And again, blending on the different areas that people learn. With me in our presentations, I do a lot of pictures, colors. I need pictures to learn. So we do that. Or some people learn more by actually doing. So that's why we have the hands-on cooking class.
Yeah.
So that's the nature of our program. So it's just a health, it basically is a health education cooking class. So even though we're from different parts of the world, the common thing is food.
So
You
true. I
know?
think food brings people together, and
Yeah,
everyone is just so happy when they're eating, and it's a language that everyone can understand. You don't
exactly.
have a barrier of a language. You can just bring everyone together to cook. And as you highlight that each culture, each community have a different type of taste. Really great to work in such things. Coming up to the point that you highlight working in diabetes, and I have seen the site. There are a lot of
Mhm.
options, as in personal, or it could be attending a type of a class to learn something. So the thing about the diabetes that really, for example, brought my attention, country Kuwait. We are a small country, yet the estimation of the number of diabetic 680,000 out of a population being around 4 million and only around 1.5 million nationals. So that's a high range of people suffering from that, and probably all the data shows that it's going to rise, and I think it's similar internationally. People sometimes forget about changing their lifestyle, forget about the option that they can change. But the idea it comes here is you have combined the importance of the lifestyle changing, at the same time providing the information, or maybe the pharmacy bit in every class, rather than working as a single healthcare provider. We kind of complete each other. So that's why having creative ideas such as that is not. So I'm interested to know what are some of the feedbacks that you've got, with joining people, and maybe you can tell us just a few.
You mentioned rings so true because, again, after the conference and wanting to see, I was like, you know what? We're going to start this and let's see how the audience responds to it. So I think it was for Colorectal Cancer Awareness Month.
Mhm.
So again, we're not trying to change, don't eat this, don't eat that, just showing healthier options to the foods that you love. Because especially in the Caribbean or in Asian cultures, rice is a staple. So for
Mhm.
me to say, or to have a healthcare provider say, don't eat rice anymore, and that's a staple in that person's culture, you're not, as a healthcare provider, you're not going to have the intended outcome that you want. To say, you know what, if they're diabetic, I love rice too much, I'm not going to compromise, and their health, their disease
Yeah.
worsens, fruits, vegetables, grains, and the light, utilizing the pharmacy skills that we have. So we use it as an opportunity to screen, to test, and to refer. So when we had that health fair, and then my husband prepared like a quinoa salad dish, the participants were like, I can't believe he could make black beans and all these common vegetables taste
Mm.
so good, to where it's like a reverse psychology. They're doing it for themselves now. So because there's no point in just having and watching him prepare the meals and they can't sample it. So when they
Mhm.
sample it, they're able to see, wow, vegetables can taste good. It doesn't have to be boring. That, and then when we actually started doing the classes, we started the actual program, and it mirrored
Okay.
with the Centers for Disease and Control Prevention's diabetes prevention program. So within the first 3 months, like in the abstract that I mentioned, people are losing like 20, 30, 40 pounds, lowering their hemoglobin A1C by three
Yeah.
points. And they're going to their doctor. The doctor's like, what are you doing? They're like, I'm just
They're
going
like,
to a,
yay.
yeah. The doctors were decreasing the frequency of the
Mhm.
medications, taking them off medications. And this just goes on what you're mentioning with the research. Me just reading all the, so we did different combinations of fruits and juices. And then the next week, half of the group bought juicers. So they
Wow.
were, yes. And that's the most rewarding thing, because as a pharmacist, seeing that outside of the pharmacy, outside of the actual pharmacy, you're helping to improve health outcomes was
Yes.
so rewarding.
Great. So I think the idea is this healthy lifestyle, these type of classes is literally for everyone. Let's
Yeah.
come back to a point related to a pharmacist. So maybe a pharmacist have heard, such pathway and they're interested in going in a similar direction. What do you think is the skills that a pharmacist need?
Focusing on your talents. I love talking, as you could see. So I love
Okay.
talking to the, yes, I, so learning health literacy. They have an organization for that that's
Yep.
international, and encouraged to speak in common language. So I'm like, wow, there's an organization that wants me to speak like a regular person and not all in this big medical long word terminology. And that's nice because the patients appreciate that. Not everyone is going to have a college level degree. You know what? I could trust this person, and they start divulging information that's close to them. And that's when you gain their trust. 30 years, because one of the patients was diabetic for the past 30 years. So
Mhm.
for him to explain that, we want to take great care too. If there's a certain passion that you have, you need to research and be very informed of it. I can't say
Yep.
I'm talking about nutrition and I don't know anything about nutrition, because, but if you don't have the information right now, say, you know what, I don't have the information at the
Yeah.
moment, but I'm going to get back to you, whatnot, and make, and that's where you garner their trust. Because once you don't have the trust with a patient, or you tell them something false, that
Yep.
you lose their trust. And especially now in this modern age, you have to compete against social media and things that they hear from their friends. Because again, people listen to their friends or their family members more than a
Yes.
healthcare provider, you know?
Yes.
So making sure you're knowledgeable in the area that you have a passion in. And if you need certifications or if you need additional schooling, do not be
Mhm.
afraid of that, because it's part of growing.
Yes, that's true.
Pharmacy, yeah, a pharmacy degree was 6 years. The school that I went to was 6 years. My husband's like, why did you go back after I graduated, like 2 months later? He's like, why did you go back to school for a master's of business? I'm like, are you crazy? I'm not going back to school. Because at that time, I thought I graduated, that's it. So in my name, you see, I comma MPH. I just got that 2 weeks ago. And
Oh,
yeah,
congratulations.
thank you. And that was the hardest. most rewarding comma ever, because now I have a 4-year-old and trying to learn
Yeah.
and study with a 4-year-old and whatnot. So even though I had the doctoral and pharmacy degree, that master's in public health, because there were so many observations I would have in the pharmacy, because I would work at different locations. And I'm like, how come in this location I'm always dispensing blood pressure medication, cholesterol, chronic disease medication in a lower income area. And now in a higher income area, it's more cosmetic medication. So that MPH helped answer my observations in the pharmacy. So 2017, just being a pharmacist, and really in 2020 saying, you know what, I'm serious and I'm going to enroll in the public health school, it just sealed the deal. I feel that I'm more public health. I love speaking to the patients, and the public health was like the cherry on top. So it's always evolution. We were nominated for the patient care provider for the next generation pharmacist. So
Oh,
that.
great.
Thank you so much. So that's the last Friday of September this month, and we're going up to Kansas City, Missouri. So
I think here comes the award and the rewards of the journey, that and coming to an end of getting your MBH, knowing that yes, public health is the place that you want to be, is just an add up to all the knowledge that you have learned, because the point that makes you special over some others, or that just makes this kitchen pops up. So it's really great to see how uh, things or pathways can take you to, and how trying different things is the key to understanding yourself when you are maybe a bit lost. And at the very end of the journey, you will be really awarded for what you have been doing, or your hard work. My interest and my aim of this talking with other people is to show this diversity. People find it so difficult to change the pathway, to pursue something different, to go beyond what society, just tells us to do. All of these stories that we are sharing is for the sake of helping others, and maybe sharing these beautiful talks. And I've seen that you provide an online services also, which is great for anyone that's not in your area. Great talk. Thank you
thank
very much.
you.
And maybe you would love to give us simple advice or a last talk before we end up.
Wanted to mention one thing, like, this is just a testament, as you heard in this 48-minute conversation, to just step out and don't be afraid, because you won't grow and you won't learn, and you never really test what you're really, because a lot of things is, I'm scared of taking a risk. But the thing is, we graduated pharmacy school. That was a risk. And look what happened, you
Yes.
know? So don't just limit yourself on, I'm just a pharmacist and that's it. There's other things that you're capable of doing. Don't. In my last year in pharmacy school, 2008, my mom was diagnosed with breast cancer.
Hmm.
So I was pregnant with my mom's first grandchild, ever grandchild, and
That's
then coming
amazing.
back to the States, because now she's doing hospice care and learning that my mom has 4 months to live, you know? So in my mom's last week, she said to my husband, don't let this gift of cooking die. Like, keep it going. The amount of grief, depression, and everything that I had, because the thing is, again, coming from New York, you could do this, you could do that whenever you want. And this knocked me straight to the ground. You have no control over anything. I thought it was going to be about one life that you have, and you do things that make you happy, because tomorrow is not determined. So we did this as a ode to, it just brought me joy. Speaking to the patients brought me joy. I seeing the award. This is just a testament. Like, do not hold yourself back. You're capable of doing anything, and your passion. Don't worry about the money. The money will soon come. But
Yes.
another thing is just to try to get the word out. I did like keep going, don't give up. Because when they see your name often enough, they start looking at you as an authority in or one of the go-to people in that chosen sector or profession. So with you, I give you all the credit to sit here and do these interviews, Moody. This is real a good talent. And you're worldwide, and I'm so appreciative to be on the other side of the screen speaking to you right now.
Thank you. It has been really great. Myself, I really also learned from the discussion. And life is short. We have to follow what we have, what we love, because, always being scared of approaching the things, as we mentioned, is not easy. And means thank
Oh,
you.
thank you so much.
So I say shukran for you, or thank you, Mercedes, for your time, and hope to see you again, and have everyone that you enjoyed listening to
Yeah,
our conversation, and you get the benefits, and see you with another discussion, another
yeah.
topics. Thank you, everyone, and
Thank
goodbye.
you. Bye bye.